This must be true love, I'm telling you.
It's an interesting study, though, because I hear their logic, and it doesn't fulfill itself.
Oh, welcome back, Patriots. This one's gonna ring your brain. The things we men will do to get laid, I guess. This is a transplant guy moved down here, former mechanical engineer, now he's an artist. Living among the muck of the liberals here. I mean, right amongst them. And he's obviously not one of them. But he's got a liberal girlfriend, and he's surrounded by the whole transvestite gay community that's in the art community here. And I guess he saw me as some kind of an oasis. So he had to have this conversation. And this dwells into the liberal mind. The workings of the liberal mind. Done other videos like this, but this one's real good. I mean, this guy goes through some in-depth analysis. And he gets very candid. I mean, very candid. There's a reason I hit his face. He's well, beyond the fact that, you know, he's living among a community here that would crucify him if they ever found out what he told me. So, I don't know, you know. It's what I do out there. And if you like what I do out there, Subscribestar. That's subscribestar.com. Badass Uncle Sam. And you become a patron. If you're a new subscriber, well, then listen a while and decide if you'd like to help me out. And if you just want to give a one-time contribution, a lot of my designs aren't apparel. They come with a trigger back guarantee. You do not trigger liberally, you get your money back. Or you can go to my PayPal and just throw money at me. Oh, I deal with that too. But in one way or another, would you please, if you can, make the effort to support what I'm doing out there. Because you know the fight isn't getting any easier. It's getting a lot harder. So, if you can't do anything else, of course, pray for me. Lord Jesus, we are in a fight. Please, Lord, help us. Okay, let's get to the flip side of this. I'll see you then.
Her, because because I obviously am pro at this. I get these arguments all the time.
Well, this is what I said though. I'm like, okay, so if that's okay, and sexual is fluidity, and it's all about consent, you know, this and that, then why is it not okay to have sex with an animal? She's like, well, they can't consent. I'm like, well, surely they can. You know, an animal has the ability to physically deny or accept a certain action. And then yesterday we were talking about a similar conversation, and it's just like it doesn't work. You can't have morality based off of, oh, we were talking about the age of consent. And I'm like, it's kind of arbitrary, just 18, you know, and it would make more sense to be 25, but that's not politically popular. And I'm like, is what you believe based off of what's popular or some absolute? And she's like, well, why can't it be both? Why can't, you know, and it was just like, one of the things she said is things can be two things at once. And it's like, no, it can't. She's like, well, O.J. Simpson killed his wife and he got away with it. I'm like, that's not two different realities. That's one reality, that he killed his wife and he got away with it, and we all know it, but that's not two different realities. There's only one reality there. And it's just like on a continuous basis, you kind of see this.
But what cracks me up about the sexuality part of liberals thinking is they say they're pro-science. They believe in science.
Right.
But they believe there's 64 different genders.
Or unlimited. But
scientists say there's two.
Right. Like, it's like, I just was, okay, so just recently there was a new judge elected. You hear about this? And the Southern Law chapter, say, you know, she's an extremist because she belonged to this legal organization that helped argue for some European states who were talking about, look, if you want to change your sex on your ID, then you actually have to physically have a surgery. And in that surgery, it will sterilize you. So they're trying to say that she was advocating for the sterilizations of transgenders. And it's like, no, that's not really what she was saying. And two, this goes back to the science argument. Why would someone need a surgery to physically change what they think they are if they're already that? So it's like, people can argue that they are this or they are that, but try to have a child, that configuration, it doesn't work. Science, like you said, you can make any argument you want about how you feel about something, but you can't conjure things into existence because of your feelings. Your reality does not define other people's realities. And I go to her church. She goes to a Catholic church.
This must be true love, I'm telling you.
No, it's an interesting study, though, because I hear their logic, and it doesn't fulfill itself, because you can't apply that kind of thinking across the spectrum. It's like, well, we're only going to use that logic in this situation. In a different situation, it's not okay. And
it's a circular logic. They come around to justify themselves each time. It's not outside the justification. It's themselves that justify themselves.
Right. And even if we acknowledge, like, one of the things that's really popular amongst the people I know here, they're my friends, but their thinking's askew. It's just with, like, racial, I don't even know how to put it. I don't know all the proper terms, right?
Yeah.
But
they don't know all the proper terms.
Right, and that's funny when you see two of them in a car and they're both trying to be as politically correct with each other, especially when you get someone who's on the left with somebody who's like, you know, they really pull the Trump card and they're no longer a he or she, they're a they, and then it becomes this convoluted conversation about how the proper way to interact is, which is going to change next week, but we should all be educated about it. So what is this leading to? We need like 4 years of primary school so we all know how to treat each other, but it's an ongoing thing. Like, she's a psychologist. She just had to go to continuing education to learn how to properly interact with children who identify as gay or transgender and all these other things, which it is about this, like, learned behavior, right? And they talk about the toxicity of male masculinity, right? But why is it that they talk about male masculinity and how it's toxic and it's a learned behavior, yet then you look at homosexual men who act a certain way, but that's a learned behavior, the way they're acting, whether they're acting like they're feminine or women acting like they're male. That's a learned behavior. They're acting the way it is common for the opposite sex to act. So why are they doing that? Right? Like, I mean, it doesn't. Why are they trying to act in a way that is a learned behavior?
You do recognize that all of this is designed to make the abnormal normal.
Right.
And just destroy the society and confuse people.
Yeah.
It's all about confusing people, destroying our, what's the family, the culture. And that's what it is.
I have kids. I don't live with my kids now. I left my family. My wife doesn't know where I'm at. She's my ex-wife. She got a divorce for me while I was gone. But I have 3 kids. I don't talk to them anymore. One of the things my ex did is she accused me of raping her. Never raped her. How in the world can I ever defend against that, though?
Yeah.
How can I?
Yeah.
She's on her own now. She got what she wanted, but she was around all these. She went back to school and she was surrounded by all these liberal, left-thinking. You're so pushed down, and I mean, I bought her a car. Like I said, I was a mechanical engineer. I bought her a nice car. She had a nice house. Every Macintosh computer, iPhone, everything she could ever want. And she just got online and she would message my friends and tell them how abusive I was. Because
that's what she was told.
What was it? Oh, here's a good one. I wouldn't let her spend whatever she wanted to.
Yeah.
I made a budget.
Yeah. We are, and I say this often out here, victims of comfort.
Right, yeah.
We've become so comfortable, we make up things to be pissed at. And that's what the counterculture is fed on, is the fact that to create the discontent, and again, it's Marxism, it's about creating discontent and destroying society. Mm-hmm. So, it isn't the first time in history this has happened.
No, right, and history repeats itself.
Yes.
It's interesting because you're talking about how we create these things, and it's like, if people like socialism so much, there's a plethora of countries that they could choose to go live in. They don't want to live there, though, because those countries are broken.
And one of the things I asked that young girl that you saw me talking to, says, name one socialist country that has worked.
What did she say? Sweden, Norway?
No, she couldn't name it.
I mean, those countries don't even really count. They're not even completely socialist.
No, they're a capitalist country with socialist programs.
Exactly.
The capitalism pays for the socialist program.
Exactly. They're very wealthy. I came from Sweden. I was there for 3 months last year. And they have very liberal policies, but let me tell you what, they're geographically protected from an influx of immigration and things like that. People got to work their ass off just to get there. Unlike America that has, this huge border that people can just walk across.
Yeah.
And they literally can walk here. It's different for Sweden. They're geographically located. Iceland too. So people name these countries, do you realize how isolated?
Yeah, but Sweden is definitely going through some dramatic changes.
They censor their magazines. They don't say when Muslims are at the heart of a shooting or stabbing.
They've gone through some. Really, that country's been changed, I think, irreparably, as most of Europe has.
Well, look at England.
Yeah.
Anyone who understands what's going on. There's a lot of there's really some crazy stuff going on right now, and I'm just kind of interested to see what people are, how people will be interacting with you with those things.
Oh, well, you can do that by going to the back of this get out of jail free card and going to my YouTube channel.
Awesome.
And I just had a good conversation with a former prosecutor about, we were going to see her in jail and things like that.
No, it won't happen.
Yeah, see, a lot of cynicism. I'm not so sure. I'm still holding out a little bit of hope that Durham and Barr might actually, because I see enough frustration, because one of the things that put Trump in was the fact that it is this two-tier justice system. Lock her up was a campaign slogan. We actually want to see it. Mm-hmm. And if this doesn't happen, eventually there will be a revolution, because that's the way it happens.
I was just watching something on YouTube today.
Yeah.
And they were like, This is gonna happen.
Yeah.
And you know, it's tough, but like you said, like we are creatures. We have too much comfort. My ex is a perfect example.
Yes,
of that.
exactly.
She had so much stuff in her life, but she needed drama, and she needed this feeling of being a victim.
And she was being fed too. She was
exactly. You're such a victim. So, like, you know, people don't realize, like, I'm not abnormal. There's so many men under attack.
Oh God, yeah.
The right thing.
Try being an old white guy.
I see it on TV all the time.
Yeah.
TV shows talking about like.
Oh yeah, you're the worst thing that can happen.
I just think about privilege all the time. Oh, another thing too. I was in Iraq and Afghanistan too, so I've got a little bit of that side too. And you know, I see like how people treat veterans and how people treat people who want to go and stand up for their country. And you know, me coming back and people talking about privilege, it's like you have that position because you have the privilege of never having to stand at one side of a gun. We don't talk about privilege enough. If we talked about privilege more often, like my girlfriend is a perfect example. She will actually tell me that I have, because this abortion right thing came up, and I'm like, you know, if people don't like the laws in their state, they can always leave, and that's one thing that everybody can do. And she's like, well, I think you're saying that from a position of privilege. It's not easy for some people. I lost my house, I lost my job, I lost my family, I lost my cars, I lost everything to leave. And so
what's harder, living under the oppression or the oppression that you feel, or going someplace where you feel at least that people are more in tune with your
exactly.
You know.
And it's like, look, you know, people do need to talk about privilege, because there's a lot of people with privilege, like people who have the privilege to stand on the corner. Oh, this came in. I get so much of this because I get these dialogue, and I'm not even like controversial with her. She doesn't even know where I stand with everything. That's why
you need to find yourself a good Republican woman, man. I mean,
around here? Are you kidding me?
No, there's a few.
There's a few, but well, I mean, we're all hiding in the closet. You know? Well, and this is why, right? So last night, she sings in the Catholic Church. She doesn't necessarily believe everything, but she gets paid, so she does it. And she was talking to one of our friends who's gay, and she was talking about how only men can be priests in the Catholic Church. And, you know, we had a dialogue about that, but eventually I started talking to her, and I said, look, if you're in an auditorium filled with a mixed bag of people, and you know that 15% of men won't listen to a woman for whatever reason. Maybe it's learned behavior, maybe it's a mental disorder, maybe it's physiological, just men don't want to fucking listen to a woman, right? Then, do you want to have a woman telling them to do things which, by her own admission, like women don't care, right? They're open to what she can't admit that a woman wouldn't want to listen to a man, right? But if I'm saying 15% of the men won't listen to a woman simply because they're a woman, then maybe there are men should be up there so that everyone can listen.
What about the other women that won't listen to other women?
But my argument put her in a position where she couldn't make that counter argument, because I'm placing the blame on men, saying, okay, men are pig-headed and they won't listen to women, right? So why don't you put a man up there who could speak to everybody and nobody would have an excuse not to listen to? And she said, well, we shouldn't cater to that.
You'd like to leave any...
Not cater to a minority?
Yeah.
See,
I know. It's only when it fits.
Right.
Only when it fits.
It's like, and it's so far. Oh, the other day too, on abortion, I got her to say, because she was talking about access to abortion, right? And I got her to say, because I was talking about women and when they have a choice. And I started talking about men and when they have a choice about whether or not they become a father, right? Because I was like, well, then maybe men should have a choice as to whether a woman has an abortion or not. That way they don't have to have the financial burdens, which is a perfectly good reason to have an abortion, right? Like,
I don't know.
Well, according to her, right?
Yeah.
I had her admit that one of the reasons to have an abortion was for financial reasons, not being able to afford it, right? Well, I'm like, well, then a man should have that same decision, right? he should have the choice after she gets pregnant. And she's like, no, he had the choice when he, and then she stopped herself because she was about to say when he had sex with her. So she stopped herself because she realized that she had already undermined her own decision by saying that women should have months to make the decision, whereas a man, he has the choice on conception.
What does she say about the one that has no say at all? The baby.
Right. Well, she doesn't think that they're a person. They're just...
It's amazing that people that, are alive believe in abortion.
Well, right. And it's just an unbelievable thing.
I mean, they're talking about up until the moment of birth now, and even infanticide after.
Right.
Well, the baby's born, then we make the decision to kill it. Is that a person?
She basically agrees with that too. And at least she's consistent. But here's the thing, right? We have laws as a culture that says we don't intervene with what other people say or do as long as it doesn't interfere with harming somebody else, right? That's kind of a basic tenet, right? But it's like there's so many people who believe, whether you believe her, that is a child or not, there's so many people who believe that it is. There's so many people that believe that someone under 18...
Well, they won't believe it just for the simple fact that if they do, they have to admit that they're murdering a baby.
Right.
And that they can't step across. The selfishness of themselves, that full-on blown selfishness is evident.
Vaccine is also a very important topic on this because this talks about the sovereignty of the body.
Yes.
So if a woman has sovereignty over her body to say, because that's actually what Roe versus Wade was about, was actually the sovereignty and the privacy of a person to make the decision about the sovereignty of their own body. It wasn't anything to do with morality. It's actually more of a conservative and libertarian view that the government doesn't have jurisdiction over what happens inside your body. I personally agree with that. I think it's murder, but I don't think the government has jurisdiction over it. But that is something that people won't talk about, right? We don't have jurisdiction over Mexico. You can go down there. If you kill somebody, the government doesn't prosecute you. It's outside the jurisdiction. It doesn't make it moral. It's a jurisdiction, right? Okay, but you don't hear this taken up as an argument because nobody wants to say, well, if you have sovereignty over your own body, that means people can't force you to vaccinate yourself.
But if you believe it's murder, then the government is involved.
Not if it's in a different country. Okay, so...
Well, I mean, speaking primarily to abortion, if you believe abortion is murder, then the government is involved because it's a murder. Prosecutor.
But you also have jurisdiction. It's a legal matter at that point. Who has jurisdiction over a certain area? Roe versus Wade was basically saying that the government doesn't have a jurisdiction over the sovereign borders, if you will. This is my interpretation. The sovereign borders of your body. Your body is sovereign to yourself. That's predominantly the argument for termination after birth. However, if that is the morality and the kind of position we want to take as a nation, you can't force people to vaccinate.
Oh, indeed.
And this is where we come to, look, you can't have this argument here, go this way, and then over here have that argument, go that way. They contradict each other.
Oh, God, yes.
So, and that's assuming, right, that, that's basically, well, and here's another angle with that. Even though if you go down to Mexico and you kill somebody, the U.S. government doesn't have jurisdiction, so they're not going to worry about that. It doesn't mean you can advertise it in the U.S. that you'll go down and go do that. Yeah. So we can't regulate what happens inside of a woman's body, but we can regulate what doctors do. And also, if medical practitioners believe that they're killing somebody, then they have the right to say, I won't perform this operation.
Which recently came up where there was some legislation that was presented that would have forced doctors to perform abortions that didn't believe in performing.
It's against the Hippocratic Oath.
Yeah.
If they believe that they're doing harm to a living person, then it's in violation of the Hippocratic Oath. Yeah. There's so many things that people don't understand the ramifications. Another good example is disclosure. They're trying to say that priests have an obligation to state what happens inside the confessional. And they're trying to put caveats into it of like, well, if it's ongoing abuse or child abuse, and it's like, okay, those are bad things, but so is theft, so is all these other things in life. Where's the border where you say, well, we're just going to have priests as they're just going to be agents of the government? Where's the line drawn? Same thing with sexuality. Where's the line drawn? Where's the scientific? Because if we all evolved from apes, then why can't you have sex with an ape? Why would that be illegal? Apes can communicate. They can consent. Like, I mean, this is like there's no argument or discussion that I've had with my girlfriend without even really being aggressive that she hasn't gone to the point where she's like, let's just not have this conversation right now. Whoa. Just because she gets to the point where she's like, oh, I can't come up with a reason for this.
They run into that brick wall, again, of this circular logic.
Right.
Once you get out that circle, they're lost.
Well, and a perfect, obvious example is vaccines versus abortion.
Right.
If it's okay to force people to vaccine for the greater public health, we're talking about a couple of people dying from measles a year. Yeah. How many abortions are there a year? I don't know. I just wanted to talk to you.
Oh, it's a pleasure,
I work in a market. I'm an artist, and I'm not making any money, but...
Welcome to my world.
But I just gotta, I gotta have a conversation every once in a while.
Well, stop by any time.
Are we on film right now?
Yeah.
Would you not... Is it live?
No.
Okay. I would appreciate it if you didn't.
Okay. I'll respect that.
So how was that? A walk on the dark side of the liberal mind. Woo! Boy, this guy, huh? I imagine she must get one hell of a blowjob. So I don't know if I could put up with it. Yeah. When I was young, I would have stood in line to fuck mud, so I can't judge. All right. See you on the streets. God bless you.